Welcome back to the Contacts Coaching Podcast. We are here for round two with Chris Stevens, athletic director at Emmanuel High School. We talked in May of 24, so we are about a year and a half out from our last conversation around coaching and administrating and all that comes within. And now we get to have him back. Coach, thanks for being here. Let's see what we can do this time.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you, Justin. Thanks for having me back. And yeah, always a pleasure following the Contacts podcast. It's good stuff.
Appreciate that. And we're back this time because, as I was joking with you about the Christmas story, you won a major award. There was no lamp included in this one, but talk briefly, share with us why we're back and the outreach in regards to that. You can be a little humble with it, but it's important that people get recognized for their work. So go ahead and share a little bit about where we are on the journey.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I am currently in year 4 of my athletic directing. Just a reset. I'm a 30 plus year football coach, call it born and raised, but 4th year in, and I guess that is the boundary, so to speak, of the award I received. So I was nominated by some of my colleagues, our colleagues, as Rookie of the Year. I think that's between their first year and your 4th year, they consider that still rookie. I would agree 100%. Still learning, but nominated, got it, received it, and the Central Section is going to recognize me at this year's Casada conference for Rookie of the Year.
Love that. And the Norm McKenzie Rookie of the Year award winner, wouldn't it be great? Like if you were one of our athletes, if you got 4 years to do your first year, and then after that, you got to play the rest of your career.
Yeah, my clock hasn't ticked yet. I guess that's the JUCO route. I don't know. Maybe we don't get enough NIL anyway, so I might as well keep the clock ticking, right?
Transfer portal. There was this article yesterday that said some kid had been granted his 9th year of NCAA eligibility. So that's what we're shooting for. All of my fellow coaches and ADs.
Let's go.
Hey, if you're new in the job, you got 4 years to make your mark. And then after that, you're a veteran, and now you're fighting against everyone else. Anyway, congrats. Yeah. I think that's awesome. For those of you that are not aware of the fun and misery that is our lives, there are 1,600 of us at least in the state, and there are 9 sections, and there is one rookie award winner every year and one Section AD winner of every year per section. And to be honored that way is a testament to the work you're doing, Coach. So great job.
Yeah, thanks, Justin.
All right, since you've been on here before, people can go back and listen to the original episode. I'll link it in the show notes to get the full scope of the Chris Stevens experience. But give us the 5-second version of how you got where you are into being the AD here at Emmanuel, but leading up to that, a 30-plus year journey as a coach and educator, but not the full story. They can listen to that elsewhere.
Sure. Yeah, no, this was a short version of this. Is I had a friend of mine who was the current head football coach here, Josh Henderson. I was calling to reach out to him because I was in transition looking for other jobs. We were going to talk about football. And so him and I were, I would say, friendly adversaries, I guess, down south. And so I was just calling to check in. Hey, man, how's the Central Valley treating you? How's football? You're at a small school, Emmanuel or something like that. We were just catching up. So in that conversation, he had mentioned that their AD left after the fall season. He got a job moving up the ranks. Division I football was calling, so he left. And Josh was actually sitting in the seat for the start of the new semester. It was about January, early January, when I called him. And so that phone call, very long story short, led me to come up here and visit. My wife and I fell in love with the Valley. We fell in love with the Emmanuel schools, administration, and the leadership, and all things led us to pack up and move from Southern California. We're in Chino, and move up here to Reedley, California, and take over to Emmanuel Schools.
Good old Reedley. And Emmanuel Schools is a private school compared to where you were before?
Yes, yeah. So I was in the public school system from about 2013, football-wise, not administrative-wise, but just football and coaching-wise, from about 2014 to about 2022. That's when I got hired here in the spring of 22.
Perfect. Let's start there. I was talking to one of my colleagues about 3 weeks ago, called me, public school lifer, and it's on the back end of his career. He's got 3 or 4 more years, and he saw one of our independent school partner's job posted, and he's like, "Hey, tell me about this. What's it like in a private school?" And I was like, "Here's certain situations. This is every school is different. You got to be a mission appropriate fit. This is not the right job for you." "Oh, really? Tell me why." I'm like, "Let me tell you why." So you're now 4 years into this,
Yeah.
and I would love to get your take as if you received a similar conversation, right? Because not every job's a good job. And you've been in coaching forever. You've now been in administration for a good chunk of time. But what wisdom would you offer to people who are maybe looking to pivot, maybe getting into this for the first time, looking at, hey, is job X at the public school? How does it compare to job Y at the local Catholic school versus the independent school? What do you got for us on that?
Yeah, it comes down to just asking questions. The one thing that I started doing after I chuckled about becoming an administrator, and I say that tongue in cheek, but I swore off admin, right? I was going to be a coach. That's what I was supposed to do. And so when Josh invited me up, we laughed about it. It was good. But again, I was taking this seriously. I'm getting ready to interview for this thing. So making a list of questions. And I think even before you get to the questions, there's got to be like a pro and con, right? Okay, what are the pros about being in a public school system versus the cons? What are the pros about going to a parochial Catholic private school versus the cons? And I actually sat down and scripted out that list. And then I just wrote a list of questions. Like I just had to ask and even talk with some people about, okay, I'm about ready to transition out of the public school system where the STRS retirement, I'm 54, right? So I'm on the back end of my career. So for me, it might be a little bit different than a young buck coming up. But as an elder statesman coming into this job, what does my retirement look like? I think that was a big thing. In the next 10, 12 years, I might be done. And so leaving the STRS, I think researching that, where does that land? How do you find your retirement in the private sector that you're going into? What does the school offer? So you're not selling yourself short. I've had a lot of friends of mine. I talked to a couple of my friends that did that. They made this transition. They didn't set it up right. And they, on the back end, they had to go back to public school to make up some of the years they were at a private school because they weren't set up correctly. Does that make sense? So one of the biggest things, I guess, for the guys in our age bracket, just really looking at retirement. Is it benefiting you? Are they going to take care of you? Can I go back? If I need to go back, can I go back? Where would I go back? I'm not looking to do that. I'm just saying those were one of my questions. Those were one of my thought processes while I was applying for this job.
Yeah, similarly, when I left my public school job, our district had a sabbatical program where you could take up to 2 years, and as long as you didn't take other employment, you could return to your job. And when leaving, it's what's the retirement look like? What does my STRS look like? And then you can't contribute to your STRS if you're not at a public school. And so I did my first, after about halfway through my first year, I knew I wasn't going back, but it was like, I ended up, I think I had 10 years in the system. I ended up cashing the thing out and reinvesting it myself after I learned more on the back end about your own private investment stuff. And I'm sure you're thinking about that similarly. But yeah, that's something that's super important, right? Like, how does that all measure up? Because it does matter if you're a career educator. Would you be able to share any specifics in regards to how to navigate that? Maybe you're doing it later. I did it earlier, but what did you learn from that that you can offer others?
Yeah. I think right away, the job that you're about to take, if you're transitioning from public to private, get with their business office, get with their HR department, get with who, is investing into the school to invest into you. And so they hooked us up with a company and we got that rolling, which is vital because as soon as you step out of that public school arena, that STRS gets frozen for a minute. And thank the Lord it's still there like you're able to cast that back and all that. But you want to get going right away. So don't wait. I probably waited too long. I was starting in spring of 22 and I let that whole spring go by because I was still getting used to the job and all the stuff that came with it. I wasn't even thinking about me. I wasn't thinking about my wife, my family, retirement. I was just trying to keep my head above water that first semester or two. So I probably let too much time go by. So my whole thing with the money side of it, number one, make sure that the school is obviously going to compensate you appropriately for the job that you're going to do, right? Private schools do a phenomenal job at that. Some schools don't. So I think one of those questions going back to the interview is, what is it looking like?
Yeah, what's the range look like?
Yes. What's that range look like? Can I move up? Am I going to be able to, am I maxing out at a certain age or a certain pay scale, whatever, all those different things. But yeah, just take care of you and your family. Make sure if you're older in the gig, that your retirement's taken care of. If you're younger and you got time, then just go get it. But make sure that you're putting monies away so that when you retire, you're not stuck going and looking around going, okay, now what do we do? When I've had friends, I've had my dad's age in the 80s somethings. I've had a gentleman who left, came back, and had to make up 8 to 10 years back into the system just to retire. And that was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, just get going right away. Young guys coming into this deal, rookies, like true rookies, 20 somethings, 30 somethings, and get it going and don't wait.
And I'd also say this, if you are younger and you have a younger family, there are bigger layers to the conversation than what's my salary range going to be, right?
Yeah.
It's what does tuition remission look like? What does the opportunity for education look like? Because when I left my school and I went to an all boys Catholic school, one of my conversation was like, what does that look like in regards to my children going to school? And it's like, yeah, your sons can go to school for free. I'm like, I have daughters. It's like, hey, you're out of luck. And I'm like, do we have a partnership with the all girls school across the street? No, we don't. It's like, okay. So even going into that job, it was, there is a limit on how long I can be here unless something transformational happens. And I don't think as public school people, you are taught to consider the, what should we say, the non-taxable benefits that don't show up in your traditional step and column that you're used to at the public school.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? What are some things you've learned, not just at Emmanuel, but through colleagues at other places that you would think if you were younger or you were at a different part in the journey, you'd be sure to get out in front of?
Yeah, investments. I think that's critical. And I've never been an investment guy. I've never run that way. But I think that's as far as looking ahead and looking into your future. You always want to live for now and make sure you can take care of you and your family now, but don't shy away from investing into other things. I'm not even talking about like side hustles, which a lot of coaches do, a lot of teachers do. They get their summer, they do different things. But no, just making sure that I guess the word in the business world is diversify, right? And the whole money thing. So don't be locked in. That was something I did. I made a mistake. I just said, STIRS is it. That's all I'm going to do. And then we had to slowly do other things. But yeah, being more, I guess the thing to take away is just, man, just be not centered around money. You and I, we don't do this for the money. We're not trying to get rich off this thing, but you definitely want to take care of the here and the now, but also look to the future so that when we hang up our whistles, families are taken care of.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right on that. And it's funny because you mentioned the STIRS thing, and I sincerely remember saying this when at that time, year 1 or 2, they bring the VALIC people or Fidelity or whomever to talk about this 403B, and it's, dude, I'm never retiring. I don't need that. I'll just be fine with STIRS. And then I get here, I had to stop in between, and it's, hey, what does retirement look like? We have a 401k that we'll put 1% into it. So, okay, that ain't gonna do nothing. Let me figure this out. And then I get here, and my first parent-teacher conference, we have a whole different conference set up at the private school, obviously, right? And I'm talking to this guy, what do you do professionally? I'm a financial planner. And it's like, can I meet with you separately later? And that was in 2010. And so in 15 years, the education that I've received is 1,000% greater than what I got in the 9 years. Number one, because I was open to it.
Yeah.
And number two, because to your point, you can bank on STIRS, you can bank on PERS if you're in the public system and not a teacher, whatever your pension funds might be, but you're missing so many other opportunities to, number one, network with your community and learn what people do. And then number two, build relationships and partnerships with those people where you got a little in the bucket here, you got a little in the bucket here, and you're almost like a pretend angel investor hoping something pops, and you never know if it's going to.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know, again, like maybe that's a private school thing where you're just around people that you get to ask a lot of questions about that maybe you don't run into in the public school, or maybe you're just not aware that those people are out there. So I would just invite people to know your audience, know your constituency, be curious, find out what people's parents do and ask them questions. Because who knows if you're going to, especially the millennials, it's like, you're not trying to do this long term, like you're dabbling. So I think that's also an opportunity. Now, how old are your kids?
16 triplets.
Okay, perfect. So they're still in the high school journey. What's that been like being the AD at the school that they're attending? And how does that differ from when they weren't at your campus?
Yeah, it's been great. So having our whole family on this campus, and my wife is now the district receptionist. So she's taking the phone calls, right? When I piss people off, she gets the phone calls, which is good. No, but kids are doing great. They're sophomore. So being on the campus, that's been a huge blessing. So don't want to take away from that. That was always something that we were hoping that would happen. But like my dad and I, we weren't on the same campus. My dad was in the public schools as a football coach and a teacher, and I was going to a private school as a youngster coming up. So we never had that relationship. But now I get to see my son just walked in and grabbed his lunch. Like before we got on this call, I get to go to all my kids' things because I know exactly what's going on in the system and what they're all involved in, all the million different things. Yeah, it's a wonderful deal. I think I would have had this at the public school, but I think it would have looked a lot different. It would have felt different, right? So I don't know. It's just a smaller community. It's a neat deal, but yeah, we're enjoying life right now together.
How do you navigate being a parent during your season of sport?
Yeah, it is difficult. So football, when I was a head coach, looked a lot different than even now as an admin, as an AD. I don't have a down season. So I might have been a little bit busier and grinding harder as a head football coach during season, but as an AD, like we are just talking about offline, we're transitioning from winter postseason into spring season and even transitioning from that fall season. And we had a great year, Justin. We made it to the finals. We won Valley this year, which was great. So our season ended in December.
Cool.
I was right into basketball, soccer, wrestling, and all the things. There was no break. There was no downtime that I was used to having when I was a head football coach, getting ready for the banquet and all that stuff. Just different, right? So different season of life. So it is definitely questions for rookies. What are my responsibilities as admin as far as supervision? What am I going to be in charge of? Where do I have to go? And what do I have to be at? The answer is everything. You got to be at most everything. Yeah, it was a crazy transition. I'm sorry, back to your question about parenting in that my kids get to see me on campus once in a while. We pop in, but sometimes I'm not getting home till 8, 9 o'clock at night. I get to see them for an hour and they're going to bed and we're doing our thing. So it truly is a sacrifice. And I'm speaking to all ADs. They all get it. Your time is invested in other people's kids, not just as a coach, but yeah, especially as an AD. And now you got coaches on top of that. You got district people on top of that. You got the whole world on top of everything. So it's good, but we're making it happen. And I'm still trying to get to all their fun stuff as well. And
so how do you balance that? That's what I'm curious about. And so I've got my two oldest, one just graduated from college, one's a junior in college, and then my youngest is the same age as yours, a sophomore. And I'm coaching the other gender team while he's playing. And when the girls were in high school, I was the boys coach. And so it's what do I go to? What do I don't? And there's the stance I've taken is almost like I purposefully don't go to their stuff that's away. If it's on campus, I'll go. If not, I'm not going. Number one, just because of the complexity of the logistics, but also two, I heard this somewhere years ago, and I am convinced at this point that it's true. Is if you're always there, you take away your kid's power of story. And even when I go back and I'll watch, because everything's digital now, I can go watch the film. There was a game last week where the camera at the host site went out and our camera went out, so there's no film. And so it's how to go, this, that, and the other thing. And that's it. That's all I got to go on. It's not let's go over this and let's look. And so I'm curious how you navigate that. You got 3 of them running around. Like, what does that look like?
yeah, so I was fortunate to be able to coach my son. He was JV football this year as a sophomore, so I'm the head JV coach. So I got to be with him every day, all the way through summer and all of that good stuff. So that was good. My daughter, one of my daughters is a cheerleader. So she was on the sidelines, got to watch her a little bit. I went up in the booth for the varsity game. So on the field, JV, went up in the booth, got to watch her cheer on the sidelines. My other daughter, Chloe, was involved in the sports med team. So she was on the sidelines during the game. Yeah, we had the Friday Night Live team going. It was great. So fall was interesting. We were all together, and that was a cool deal. But then, yeah, Kendra continues to cheer. I'm in basketball. I get to see her at basketball games. My other daughter now is going into beach. She's going to beach volleyball. So our calendars are look like a bag of Skittles. We got my son, my daughters, my wife, me, and all our schedules. Man, trying to balance it. Sometimes we have to divide and conquer because they're the same age and because they have sometimes the same competitions at the same time. My wife and I are just talk about, okay, you go to this one, I'll go to this one, and maybe next time we switch. So that the balancing act is full on communication on a Sunday. What's the week look like? And that has been a big deal for us is having that time on Sunday where Karina and I, my wife and I, we'll just look at all the schedules and go, okay, where can we go? How can we be there? What's happening here? So that's been like a big deal this year for us as they're in all the things.
Yeah, no, and that's helpful. Everybody's got their own challenges. I'm just always curious what other people do. A hard pivot because as my brain's running all over while you're talking, I got a call from a colleague this morning actually, and public school was talking to me about the way in which development works in our space, which is obviously different than the public school. And he was trying to talk through where he has let's call it a donor who wants to make a contribution to the school, and the school district is pushing back on the donation. And you and I are looking like, what are you, crazy? No, figure that out because we are scrapping to make ends meet because there's no public funding. And yet the public school district, for whatever reasons, and I don't have the right word now, bylaws, whatever it might be, where they have to handle certain things, it's just so different. My question for you, going back to being a public school guy, if somebody wanted to do that and they're like, hey, look, I got 50 grand, I want to improve the weight room, I want to get new uniforms for the football team, I want to do X, Y, and Z, but the school district's balking at it, right? What are the options? And in the private school, it's totally different, right? So let me connect you with my development office and y'all work it out. But what does that look like if you can flash back in time or even knowing what some of your colleagues are working through to where the kids can benefit legally, right? In a way in which like that type of interest can be received? Because most public school people, when they think about generating revenue, it's like, let me go run a fireworks stand. That ain't really the math. Like, how do you go find these people that want to pour into the program and then create the vehicle to do that?
Yeah, that was a great question, especially nowadays. I had a similar situation at Chino Hills. So we were in dire need of a weight room upgrade. We just the school had opened in 2003. I took over in 16 and they had the same weights in there and probably borrowed from back even farther back. So it was time. I was able to work it out through my principal at the time and she worked it out through the district where maybe the budget wasn't ready at that moment. So she said, well, just give me a year or two. We were able to get it done. They helped subsidize some of the equipment, and I was able to get the work to get the labor done. Does that make sense? So I got to save the district money. And anytime you save a district any kind of money, they're giddy up. Oh, they'll just have to work out the logistics. Yeah, I had a bunch of eager dads at the time who had kids coming up in my program who were fired up that we were getting new equipment. And they're like, yeah, I got the tools. Let's just go do this. And then I had even more boosters, I guess, that did a separate donation to capture some more like toys for the weight room. The school did the big stuff, the racks and the weights, but we needed some other stuff. And so my booster club funding that, the school couldn't, not that they couldn't touch it, but we were a separate entity, 501(c). And so the money was put into that. And then that money got put back into the weight room with bells and whistles. Does that make sense? So we were able to get it done.
Yeah, no, and it makes perfect sense. And that was my recommendation. It's what does your partnership with the Booster Club look like? Because most of those are 501(c)(3s, and most people that are looking to make donations are trying to get a tax write-off.
Yes.
And often the districts are not set up to take donations because they're dependent on public funding, but your booster clubs they actually exist for that reason. So how are you partnering with them so that you can connect them with said donor and let them work out the logistics, and then they pay for whatever it is named in that gift, right?
Yes. And that's been a game changer here at Emmanuel, honestly, Justin, is that when I got here, they didn't have team accounts for all the sports. They had a school account. And so that money was funded privately by our generous people, right? We're just saying, hey, I want this to go to athletics. Just last year, we decided to set up a school account and a team account. So anything that the team wanted to raise booster wise could go into that team account. That team account rolled over year to year. The school account was zero out, right? You don't use it, you lose it kind of thing. And so that was a big deal. So now coaches are raising more money, not just of what they charge for like the sports fee of $100 or $200. They can raise now on top of that, put it in that team account, and that can roll over. Case in point, my volleyball coach went to Hawaii this past fall because she spent 3 years building up money it was separate. And so once the school decided to go to a team account, she just put it all in there. They got to take a cool trip as a program. So even now we're doing things at a private school where we don't get that public money to try to help our coaches even go to the next level. Whereas before it was just sports fees and here's your spirit pack and that's all we got. Now we're doing fundraising. And on top of that, we are tasking all of our head coaches to be heads of sport. So now they've got all their club sports underneath them who have their own boosters. So there's actually a third entity, if they want it and how they want to run it, to raise money for the program. Obviously, they'll go to their youth program, but they are the benefits of that because those youth programs get to use our facilities. They get to do all these different things. And so money's generated at the ground level with the youth program. Then it comes through the parents and the sports accounts, plus the school. It's really been a game changer financially for my coaches. So now they just vision board it. Okay, I want to do this and this. Let's go do it. And that's been a big thing for us there.
You got to love the proxy to Clovis that now you have director of sport. And we don't need to go down that road, but let's talk a little bit about the Hawaii trip and other things you have in the pipeline and how you are navigating that. What is the long range planning, the short term, how you're figuring out equity. And just so you know the genesis of the question, over the last 3 years, our girls and boys water polo have gone to Croatia, or took our field hockey to Canada. We took our basketball teams to Australia this summer. We're trying to plan trips next summer for a couple of our other teams. And my rationale on this will land with you, but the pitch is like, look, I don't know how good we're ever going to be, but we can do some cool shit. And how do we build memories, right? And how do we I don't want to say but how do we expand the van and bus time? Because that's really like where the memories are built, right? And so we were able to do these beta tests. And now my goal is to once every 4 years, one of the programs is going to go on a trip, ideally internationally, but not necessarily, right? If you now have this Hawaii trip as the beta test, what does the rest of it look like? How did you do that? What would you tell Jimmy down the street who is, oh my God, how do you go to Hawaii? What's the step by step?
Yeah, first step is obviously, like I said, that vision casting, right? So you want your coaches to think bigger, if then that is in their wheelhouse to want to do that. So we talk at length and just tell these guys, like, what do you want to do? We can go out there and play and do all these things, but like you just said, I think you said that very well, it's the experience, right? It's all that other stuff that surrounds the program that these kids are going to remember. They're going to remember that forever. I get kids on senior nights saying all the time, I remember the coast trips. I remember going to the coast and hanging out with my buddies all weekend playing soccer. They remember the coast trips.
Because you're in the valley, bro.
Yeah, they want to get to the coast, man. Let's get out of this fog-ridden valley or whatever. So we vision cast. All right, what do you want to do? And then the next steps are, we need parent buy-in. The parents need to understand that we want to do this, and not that they have to raise all the money, but there's going to be some extra, not pressure, but an extra buy-in to that. And then once that's taken place, then it's my job as AD to go to the rest of the admin and say, hey, my volleyball coach would like to take a trip to Hawaii. My principal and I talk about class time and just try not to miss too much. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that checks and balance. And so just communicating it with everybody. And then once that takes place and my coach says go, and this was back in the spring, obviously, way back before they even talked about that. We sat down and debriefed after her season the year before, and she was thinking, I would love to take a trip. So that was in November, December of the year before. Then we start doing all this stuff. So Yeah, she just, let's do it. And then okay, then the next piece is how are we going to do it? How's the fundraising? What's that look like? So list it out and what each parent's going to have to come up with, how the kids are going to go out and raise it, which I love about this place too. Our families are generous and they give so much, but the kids still have to put in the work. They still have to put in the sweat equity to get it done. They can't just sit back and let everything get paid for. They got to go out and do something. They got to serve. They got to do something in the community. They got to make a phone call. They got to do something, right, to earn this thing. And so that was the next steps, was getting them on the road, getting all the girls fired up, and then doing the checklist of fundraisers. And then once we saw her account starting to go, her and I would just communicate, "Hi, where are you at? Okay, I see you're here. What else do you need? Do you need to do another fundraiser? Yeah, we got one coming." All that was just taking place over summer and fall leading up into the season. And yeah, it made it happen. Yeah, it's a process. I would say you're at least a year, maybe two out if you're thinking about doing this for the first time. Planning, vision casting, where do you want to go? What's that going to cost? How many kids are you taking? Are you taking chaperone? All that stuff. And you got to have a good time to get that all on paper.
The other thing I'm curious about, did you go through a group or did she schedule all the games herself?
She found a tournament. That's a great question. She found a tournament in Hawaii that was going to fit her. That was really cool. They were going to have a high level tournament out there. She wanted to get into that, and so that was easy, right? That was $600 tournament fee. That's no problem. And so yeah, she found the tournament. Said that's where we want to go. It's where we're going to turn it into a huge team bonding trip, and a huge over the seas getaway. And yeah, it just came to fruition.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason I asked that, you have these groups, I think it's called KSA. They run things in Orlando, they run things in Arizona, they run things in
Yes.
Hawaii for certain sports. And those are prepackaged deals. And then you do what you did, which is I want to go play in this tournament and we'll figure it out. Or like
Yep.
when we went to Canada to play hockey, it was a partner school, similar to us, boarding school there. Our heads of school were friends, and it was like, hey, we should do this. And we went and played them, and they brought another school in, and we played them, but all just put together with the
Nice.
school, just the two of us. And
Yeah.
then when we went to Croatia for water polo, it was actually like a week long camp that all inclusive for the kids, and then the parents that wanted to go there would parent things they could do, and then you had to just get the plane tickets or whatever, right? And then our trip to Australia over the summer, I actually worked with a Aussie Basketball Travelers, great group
Nice.
that put the whole thing together. It was a 12-day deal where they scheduled the games, they got us housing, they did the flights, they did everything. And the I was a little leery because I've just always done it myself,
Yeah.
but when our flights got canceled like the day before we left, I didn't have to stress because they took care of all that and got it all figured out. So there's a million different ways to do it, but to your
Yeah.
point, it's like the why, the how, the when,
Yeah.
right? And the who, like all those questions that you got to start with. But in regards to how do you really give kids an experience, it's like, how are you adding that to their journey? And it doesn't even have to be crazy like that. It can be, to your point, go to the coast and play in a tournament. Go up to
Yeah.
Reno. We used to do that when I was in Sacramento and figure
Nice.
out ways to get the kids away from community so that you have a captive audience. What other opportunities have you seen over your career or even now just at Emmanuel where your teams have done that? Not necessarily to Hawaii, but like they're going out of the area purposefully to get away.
Yeah, yeah. Tournament's always a big deal. Anytime you can get like that mountain high or that mountaintop experience where you're just getting out of the community, like you were saying, it's perfect. And even if it's for a night, I did this back when I was at Ontario Christian. We had a 7-on-7 alignments competition. We turned that into a overnight camp with the boys. And so we'd have they lived wherever they lived. But I told them, I said, no, this year there's something different. I changed it up. Was you guys are going to spend the night on campus, and then we're going to have this tournament. To this day, that was 2000 and oh man, I'm a blank on the year, but it was somewhere like 2012, 11 or 12, something like that. The boys are still talking about that every time I connect with them. They remember that night. They remember blowing fireworks up on a barbecue pit out on the baseball field, like stuff that doesn't happen on a normal practice field or a game field or in a typical season. Those are the things that these kids are going to remember forever. And like I say, in senior nights, what's your best memory in this sport? They're going to say the Croatia trip. They're going to say the Australia trip. They're going to say all these different things. So even if you can't do the big ticket thing, if you can get your kids just even on your campus for a night or two as a camp out or a team bonding or anything like that, man, those are the ties that bind. Get them away from their video games, get them away from the chores of the house, whatever it is. They're in their sport, they're with their brothers and sisters, they love what they're doing, they love being around each other. And then you add the element of a slumber party to it or something like that, where it could be a little fun. Man, those are things that just accelerates culture, accelerates team unity. It's a game changer. It's good stuff.
I never even thought about that. You brought them onto campus and did your overnight there, where I'm always thinking about our lacrosse team's going to go to Sacramento over spring break for a night, play 2 games, and come back. And it's, yeah, why can't you just do that on campus? What prompted that? How did you just in the gym? Like, what did that look like? What can you offer others who maybe haven't thought about that as well?
Yeah, and that's the minimal, right? So if you're not going to spend the money for a hotel and you don't want to do that, you just use your campus. Obviously, get clearance. My administration at the time was just all about it. They're all for that. I told them, I said, we're not sleeping in the gym, by the way. We're sleeping outside. So bring your sleeping bags, bring your tents. All my guys that were campers knew what I was talking about. The other ones were freaking out. I mean, I've never done that before. They lived in a house or whatever. They're used to hotels and all that good stuff. It was awesome, man. We had the wide range of kids that have been doing it their whole lives that were like the Eagle Scout type guys that were just putting it up like and making, they would split the tribes. Like they had the group over here with the big fort, right? Then they had the group over there. It got crazy. And I didn't set any of that up. I just said, you're coming, you're going to spend the night, bring your stuff, have your whatever you're going to have. Boys were bringing barbecues, they were bringing pits, they were bringing flash burners to make food. They were getting fed by the parents. They brought their own food for those late night things, and they started having war games. They brought water balloons. It was like, it turned into, I don't even know what to call it, compare it to. It was a crazy night. I didn't sleep. I got zero sleep because the boys were up running around trying to chase each other around. But it was the greatest time, Justin. It was the greatest time, and no one got hurt. Thank you, Lord. No, I got hurt. We all made it out of there alive, but it was one night and they will never forget it.
I think that's a brilliant idea. I've never even considered that in 26 years where it's we don't have the resources to do X. Why don't we just do Y? I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that idea. Any other creative thoughts that maybe aren't in the mainstream that you've tried or you've heard of other people trying that you could offer our colleagues?
Oh, man. No, I think I've run the course like most other coaches, athletic directors. I guess just be open. Talk to your coaches about some of these things and what can you do just to make it more unique. I can't think of anything more than that as far as like football wise or sports wise. Obviously, there's coaches out there that have probably great ideas as well. But just check with your admin. Make sure you're clear and it's all good and everybody's above board with it. Parents know. It's fun. I mean, that just whatever your season's like, whatever your record at the end of the day is, like I said, those things they will never ever forget. They'll be telling their kids and their grandkids about the water balloon fight out on the baseball field that night they were a senior, whatever. It's all good. So do it. Try to think outside the box. You can go to the hotels and you could do the fun big trips, and those are phenomenal. But pick a day of the summer before everything gets real serious and just have a fun night together. Go over to someone's house. If they got a pool or something, spend the night. Put 20 boys into a living room if you can handle it and see what comes of that. But yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, it's funny because we're talking about the sport, but that's really just a vehicle to create experience. And when we were planning our trip last summer, one of my parents was asking, because we took a couple of rising ninth graders to fill out our roster, and it was like, look, are they going to play? I don't want them just going for that. I said, look, man, this is a cultural immersion masquerading as a basketball trip. Everyone's playing. It's camp sub, just run them through. And when we got overseas and realized the level of comp anyway, it's like we're resetting the score every quarter anyway, because it's like the Wild West. And so none of that stuff matters. It's what are the things that we're creating experience with that these kids can point to as a milestone as they move to the next thing. What does that look like for you? So last night we had our senior night for our basketball team, and I've never really been into like the pomp and circumstance of like games to begin with. We're an anthem and introductions, and then we just play. And then senior night, it was like, all right, I'm gonna read the names of the seniors. They're gonna go take a photo with their parent. They're gonna go on. And when I switched a couple years ago from the boys to the girls, my former girls head coach became my assistant, and she's party queen. And so it was this whole production where the younger athletes would be assigned one of the seniors, and they would write like a minute speech about this kid and then give it on the mic in front of the whole gym, right? And that was her way of really celebrating that kid. And then when I took over, I was like, cool, but we're not going to do that piece here because it echoes and it doesn't sound great. We're going to do that after the game at my house. And last night was year 3 of it, where our introduction for seniors was, here's the name of the kid, who's they're escorted by, what's their favorite memory, what are their thank yous, and it's quick. Boom, you go play the game. We went to my house. The parents had arranged food and pizza and crumble and everything you can imagine. And then while we're there, after 20 minutes of fellowship, it's okay. Who's got so-and-so? Got you two up there. They got their poster. They got the kid. They're reading their thing. Super special moment, right? Each of these 5 kids has their teammates reading about their impact. And then at the last second, I made a pivot and I was like, you know what? We're going to add to this year because it's constantly evolving. And each senior, you're going to get up here and stand here now and talk about your experience. And so we added that last night, and you got the kid in tears and the rest of the team bawling while they're talking about their thing. And it was like this last minute just pivot. And I'm calling my boys coach over. Hey, you need to come over to the house and watch this. I think you should try to do something similar. And he's giving me shit because he's like, dude, you've never been about any of this. What's wrong with you? And I say, hey, listen, I'm starting to see the value of kind of telling people what they mean to you, because you don't get that opportunity very often. And we do our banquet and we do it at the end of the year, but how often do we let the younger kids speak to the older kids, or the older kids talk to the younger kids? Anyway, give me your thoughts on that. What do you do? What are things you've tried? What are things you stick with? What can you offer some people?
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that, Justin. I appreciate that. Anytime you get that, where it's not just the coaches talking anymore, right? It's the kids talking about the kids. Love that. I did, so I'll take it from a different angle, a parent's angle, right? Like the senior night thing. We did this at a few of the schools I was at when I was head football coach. Parent week or senior week, that Wednesday night, I believe it was Wednesday, that Tuesday or Wednesday of that week, we put on a special dinner for the program. And for the first time all year, you get to go up there and hear the parents talk about their kids, right? You hear them always talking about them to you, about the game or whatever, booster clubs or all that stuff. But the transparency and the humility that brings when there's a parent standing there with their kid and they're telling an audience about their son and all the cool stuff and the memories. They go back into funny anecdotes about their childhood and things that you probably as a coach never knew about that kid. And all of a sudden you got mom and dad spilling the beans about something that happened when they were 7, right? It's the coolest moment. And I'll even take that one step further. I've seen this. I've had parents separated, divorced, who come back to that night, right? Because their son's graduating. And there have been sweet reconciliations. Not that the marriage was brought back to order, right? But you got mom and dad who had not been in the same room together. All of a sudden they're standing on the other side of their kid, crying, talking about their kid, right? It was so powerful and so much stuff that came from that. Another one of those memorable experience type things. And it was just great. And then you would have the seniors on this was a separate, so that was one occasion. The other occasion was doing what you did. And I love that. Is have the seniors stand up and not just say your favorite memory, but you need to call out this guy, tell them what they need to do in this program to carry on the torch that you're leaving behind as a senior. Love that stuff. That's, to me, is more powerful than a coach telling that kid. You got a senior that this freshman looked up to for these last year, and all of a sudden he's breathing into him something. That's just awesome. So yeah, I love that stuff. The pomp and circumstance on senior night. I have a facilities guy who's also a tech guy who rigged up some blinky lights. So we turn the light, we have the LEDs now, and we're doing all that, right? We're flipping the lights off. We got the Chicago Bulls intro music going. The lights are blinking. It's all crazy. So we have a good time with the actual in-game senior night stuff. We got an announcer who rocks it, the whole thing. Kids doing their own little claps and high fives. But all those different things, again, going back to the experience, man, it all is tying into that. So yeah, coaches really try to figure out what kind of event you can do to support your seniors, because this is it. And you know the stats, right? Less than 5 are going on to college to play the sport you've been training them up in the last 4 years. And so this is it. So have fun with it, make it memorable, make it a great experience.
how do you frame the instructions for the parents on that night when you're having them speak in front of people? Because that could go sideways real quick if there's any friction at all with the program.
And that comes from me. So I would communicate with the guardian, wherever that boy was living. I would talk to mom, would talk to me. We like this, for example, if it was mom, and she would offer that up. Hey, dad would like to come to this. I said, okay, how are you guys? And then we would just not in a big counseling session at all, but just, can you guys just be in the same room together? And more often than not, it's a yes. I have had it where they've said no. I have had that. So before you put that element together, you have to talk it out. You have to first ask the young man. I always brought in the athlete. Hey, I know mom and dad are split. We're having your senior night. What's up? I've had it from where the kid says neither of them are coming. And I've had a coach step in and actually honor that senior. I've had one parent say, I'll be there, but he can't, or I'll be there, but she can't. And then I've had both, like I just mentioned, they both come, and it's been a wonderful moment. But yeah, you had better make sure that everybody is on the same page. And I haven't had a problem. They've come in, they'll have dinner, opposite sides of the room. They conduct themselves. There's nothing. And then
What about if you're talking about not the family dynamics that are weird, but if you've got a parent who has been displeased with you, coach, and ultimately now they're getting the mic in front of everybody, right? Yeah. And I say this somewhat tongue in cheek, but one of my kids last night, who I love to death, senior leader, and she's a 3-sport athlete, and she's, look, y'all know this is my third sport. It's my least favorite. Coach keeps dragging me out here and it makes me play. And I'm like, it's your favorite team? No, she's like, you're right. But it's like, you're giving someone a hot mic. Like, how do you frame that for these parents who may see it as their opportunity to undermine what you're trying to do?
Yes, I have yet to have that. That could have happened. And I've had parents up there who I have already had little adversarial interactions with, have handled themselves very well. I will say that. I have not yet. I've had it at booster meetings. I've had boosters point fingers and call me out, and we have those talks right at that moment.
In that meeting, that's okay. But at a senior celebration, that ain't the time.
Because it's all about the kids. And I think at the end of the day, good, bad, or indifferent, happy, sad, mad, whatever, they know it's about the kid that's standing right up there with them, and it's all about them. Yeah, so I haven't had that embarrassing moment where I've had to get the cutoff music and the cane out and pull a dad off or anything like that. Or they'll just be quiet. They just won't say anything. It'll be mom or someone else. But no, that's a good question. It's always worked itself out, but I always give them a time frame. Let's just keep this short and sweet, tell a few jokes, tell a few stories, and then let's move on.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a great idea. And in our roles, it's all about risk management and how you get away from trouble, right? So it's like, that sounds awesome. But I'm going to worry about what this guy's about to say. I appreciate the share on that. Yeah. All right, we've been talking for a while, so I'll give you this nugget to close with. And this is what I was asking on the AD specific show for a while before I didn't have the bandwidth to keep it going. But it's a question that Anthony Thomas asked me a couple years ago that he frames with his coaches at times, which is, what weighs most heavily on your mind right now from a professional standpoint, right? In our job, there's a million things coming at us. There's no time to take a breath. But what are the things that, like, you're constantly just wrestling with? And that's the root of the question. And then it's funny, I'll offer you this as well while you're thinking about that. But we have a men's group on campus where we're trying to teach our young fellas how to be vulnerable and emote. And the thing that I led the group with today was a question I got from a friend in my own men's group a few years ago, but it was like, what emotional baggage are you carrying that's not yours that you need to put down? And because often we do that, right? Something's going on over here. It's really got nothing to do with me, but it's weighing on me so heavily, I can't do this stuff. So anyway, it's not the same, but it's still the same idea. It's like, what weighs most heavily on your mind right now from a professional standpoint?
Yeah, man. From a professional standpoint, I think it's managing the budget of 19 sports on a private school campus that doesn't get any government funding. So we have to take the monies that we're blessed with by our constituents and use it appropriately. That has been the heaviest burden on me the last 4 years, is just making sure the monies that are given are handled right. So that in a professional standpoint. On a personal standpoint, I would say, am I doing enough? Am I enough? Am I doing what's right by this department? Am I doing what's right by my coaches, my athletes, even the administration, teachers, like the weight of the world of the campus, I feel, because I feel, and you probably feel the same way, athletics drives our bus. We have a wonderful FFA program. We have an outstanding performing arts program. We've got a wonderful this, that, and the other. I'm here to make athletics excellent. And am I doing that? And how am I doing that right? And I think that personally, that's been weighing on me. Like, am I enough? Am I doing enough? Am I saying enough, being enough? Am I at enough events? Am I showing my support enough? So those two things are probably the two top dogs right now in the fourth year.
Isn't it funny that you make the comment about managing a budget when most people look at private schools and say you got more money than God? Talk about that exposure and realization once you got in the seat. And I know you were private, public, private, but I think it's such a misconception that we have all the money to do whatever. And it's like, no, you don't understand. We're building a science building and we had to raise $50 million. There was no underwriting bond. There's none of that. Like every facility improvement, everything that we do is a plus one. Give me your perspective on that. Maybe educate the masses so that it's not this default. Oh, you guys can do whatever you want. You're a private school.
Right. Yeah, and I haven't done enough research to know what all like public schools, bigger public schools, because I don't have all the sports. I don't have some of the sports that public schools have. And so I haven't done enough research to know what a public school athletic program looks like or a district program looks like. But I can tell you that yeah, a penny given is a penny spent before it even gets on our campus because of that. If I spend, and I'll be honest with you, Justin, my first 2 years, I was in the red. And I think I was probably not doing what was right by the school, by the constituents. And I was called on the carpet because that was not my wheelhouse. And I told him that when I got hired. Look, I'm not a good budget guy. I'm not a good spreadsheet guy. It's spirit packs, it's shirt and shorts, and I'm good. But this requires much more of my attention. Help me with that, right? And I took some lumps the first couple years because I was driving in the red a little bit too much because I wasn't keeping up with all the POs and all the stuff. So yeah, it's more than just sitting in a chair smoking a cigar and Mr. What's the guy with all the money? When it's coming in, it's just like piling up and he's laughing. No, man, my door opens. What's next? What's coming through my door, financially speaking? And what am I going to do with that? So yeah, that whole thing about we have all the money in the world, we could do it. No, those trips happen because our coaches micromanage their down to the penny. We can do this, but we raised the money. We went out and did it. And yeah, it's not just everything I touch turns to gold. It's everything I touch. I'm shaking the rust off of it and hoping it works. And I'm doing it right and spending the right money at the right place, the right time. And that could be a little stressful. So no, it's a lot different when you don't have, I don't know, maybe it's the alumni base. You hear some of the colleges with all these millions of dollars alumni base. You hear some of the privates in California with the alumni base they have. People that have gone on to the NFL that are giving back hundreds of thousands of dollars to upgrade this and that and the other. And we don't have that yet. We're a smaller school, 400 kids, and we're just getting this thing rolling again. So yes, we do have generous people in our community. Their monies are being spent to build the school, not the sports program.
Yep. And that's the funny thing too, right? Where it's the public school version, like our neighbor just finally got their softball field done, Monterey High School. They got lights, these things that have been in the plans forever. Marina High finally has an outdoor field. They got a gym like 5 years ago. And that's all written into the public bond raise, right? Here, give me your wish list. And then they whittle it down. And then it's, oh, this was on the plan, but we overspent here, that type deal. And our version of that is similar in regards to we're building the MSEC right now. And I want to try to do something to update the baseball field. And it's now we're not doing that until this is done. Because to your point, if you divert interest from whatever the main thing is, all of a sudden nothing's getting done. And it's one of those things where, like, how are you partnering with your people that are experts in that space that are building the school to get them to be on your team in regards to athletics and how that supports boarding the school or building the school, not the other way around. Interesting things, man. Curious to see in a little while what it looks like, but I appreciate you taking the time again, and congratulations on getting acknowledged for your work. I think that's awesome. I was able to do that a couple years ago, and it was fun to have the family there. So hopefully they're going to make it to Riverside this year to see you get your award.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that, Jess. Yeah, congrats again on your past successes. It's great to see you again, and thanks again doing the podcast. I catching up with all the coaches and people you have on it. It's great, and yeah, looking forward to seeing you down Riverside, man.
Yeah, and hey, I'll leave y'all, everybody that's listening, with this. The networking that you're going to do at the conference, the networking that you're doing in your day-to-day job, the networking that your coaches are hopefully doing, that isn't just about their sport, is ultimately going to help you serve kids, because a big way we were able to pull off those trips last summer to Croatia and Australia were me calling in personal favors, some from people that don't even go to the school. It was just a matter of, hey, I'm trying to do this. I'm short this amount. Can you help? Sure, no problem. And it's like, how are you in your role? How are our coaches in their role planting seeds and making deposits into relationships in the event they have to take a withdrawal at some point? And you can't do that if you're not putting into them.
Yeah, that's exactly it, is relationships. They're building community within the program or the school, but again, going outside the school. When we're taking these trips and we're just playing and we're going on the road, how do we travel? What are we doing we do a good banner campaign. A lot of sports do banners, right? We do banners all over the place. How are we treating those people? Are we writing thank yous? Are we going into the businesses? Are we promoting their business and thanking them on the back end? I got a golf tournament coming up in March, and I've already wrote my thank yous to some of our big corporate sponsors. Just a simple note of thanks. Like, they're going to get recognized on all the signage, but just having that personal touch, boy, it goes along, so that when you go back, maybe for a little bit more, someday down the road, you're looking to do something else, you can go back to that business and say, thank you for your past. Appreciate you being a part of this. We have this coming up. Would you be willing? Man, that's huge. Those relationships and those tapping into those corporate sponsors. Our coaches do a great job. The issue that we have, and maybe this is a question back to you, is how do we not overtap? Because we have a small community of people who donate generously. How do we not go back to that same person all the time for every sport and every coach? That's I don't know, we have to navigate through that. We have to see, who are we tapping for the big projects on school site? Okay, we can't really go back to them for athletics. So how have you experienced that, of making sure you spread the wealth out and not get too much on one person? Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I'll give you my 2 cents on it. I sit on a board of a local community partnership group that serves underrepresented kids, and they did a campaign to buy their building 4 years ago. They raised $1 million, and now we're trying to raise another 250 for a sustainability fund, because grassroots pop the trunk organizations are always trying to make payroll. And I asked at the board meeting the other day, it's okay, who gave to this other campaign? And they're like X, Y, and Z, and this is what they gave. And it's okay, have we thought about going back to the well and being like, hey, you guys helped us with this. This is the final cherry on the program. What portion? And it's, let's start there. They're already invested. They've shown they care. You're going to have constituents and support that are die hard about your program, right? So that's number one, right? You have your 10% of your people that you are in their top three. You might be their number one. They are always going to respond to the call, right? So that's that piece. And then you have your development of alumni and their involvement. And then you have your current parent involvement, right? And you have your past parent involvement. And then outside of that, it's, okay, how are we getting grants, right? How are you applying for the Pebble Beach Foundation gives money to a lot of local organizations, right? And they probably take in 500 applications a year, and they divvy up whatever that pool is every single year, right? And so I think that's where people got to think outside the box a little bit. It's, what is the diversity of our funding sources? Number one. Number two, in your big projects, you're always trying to get a lead gift, right? So this science building, that we're building, or the dorm that we built the last time before, or whatever it is, your silent campaign is you're always trying to have at least half of it funded before you launch the public campaign. And I think that's part of it as well, right? It's $50 million building that when we started building it, it was supposed to be like 43, right? And we had 20 that we had pledges for. And now it's okay, let's go hustle the rest. And then the other thing, that my director of development is awesome. She's a genius and an expert in this stuff. And she is really good at identifying within your population, okay, this family has made it clear that they care about XYZ and they're only giving to XYZ. And so I get a little bit more permission to talk to those families specifically about athletics when they've basically told her, like, I don't care about the science building. I don't care about the faculty housing, whatever it might be. I'm only giving to soccer. And it's okay, go talk to them as much as you want because they've made it clear that they're not going to participate over here. And I think you're right. The reason you have to partner with them, and I think this is the most misunderstood part, is if your school's trying to build a new gym, or let's not say that, let's say they're building a performing arts center, and your basketball coach hits up a family that has the capacity to give $1 million, and they're like, hey, can you buy us new uniforms? And then they're like, sure, no problem. And then the development office reaches out and it's, oh, we already gave to basketball. And now that coach is on the hot seat because it's like, you took away $1 million gift for $3,000 uniforms.
Yeah.
And and they don't think in those terms, but ultimately, to your point, they're being hit up and there's a finite amount of resources. And ultimately, if the kid selling candy knocks on your door and asks you for $20 candy and you give it out and 10 more kids come by, as a teacher, at some point, it's, yo, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Now you multiply that times 100, the further people go up the socioeconomic ladder. And so how are you being strategic with your teams where you have multi-sport athletes, and we're going to do a vertical raise for each of these, and you're getting the same 10 people? And there's not an easy answer, but you can't operate in silos. And I think that's the important piece of it. And I think ultimately part of it is also knowing who people are going to respond to. So it's, if your director of development calls your former quarterback's parents, they're not responsive. But it's like, hey, Coach Stevens, can you call them and ask them if they'll sponsor a table at this event? And they're going to pick up the phone for you. And so it's, who are you using on your team to also nurture those relationships based on what they know? And I think that it might be the science teacher who had an impact on this kid and opened up doors. And now the person created the AI next generation thing, and they got nothing to do with sports. But ultimately, you as the bio teacher are one of their closest confidants, whatever that looks like.
I'm blessed too. My director of development's my head baseball coach.
Yep.
So
Yep.
It's just the way it is. It's a really good deal. He's awesome. So it's, I have that part of my team, which is part of my coaching staff, but he helps me. He's helping me with this golf tournament, but he's going out and knocking on doors and even doing some cold calling, which is, it's really good. So it helps. That does help.
When we get to Riverside, you can tell me how the golf tournament went, but we're about, a month and a half away, and I'll see you there and be in the stands and audience and celebrate you in your moment.
Sounds good, Justin.